All right, so missing cash flow questions within the capital budgeting chapter of your Intro to Finance course. How do we do that? Students typically they tend to struggle with this, but there's actually a very easy and quick way to go about this, especially if you've seen my other videos and my other problems on the internal rate of return and the incremental cash flow setup. In this question, you'll see how do you solve a final exam question, okay? You'll understand what do we need to do, why do we need to do this, and how can we visualize this and make this an easy and quick process. So follow along with me if you're doing your Intro to Finance undergrad course or even a finance class in your MBA, perhaps even a CFA Level 1 seeking context on these topics. So let's go about it. I'm gonna go straight into it with you, okay? So Nippon Airlines, all right, whoops. Nippon Airlines has been facing financial difficulties from 2020 to 2022. Therefore, the CEO wants to fuel growth by investing in one of the following mutually exclusive commercial flight projects. We have Project Canada and Project Fiji. Now, just to make this super quick from the very get-go, what we're going to do is we're going to identify Project Canada and Project Fiji as being simply Project A and Project B, such that when we're referring to these questions along the process, you'll be able to understand exactly what we're talking about. So we have Project Canada, we have Project Fiji, and as you can see, we have different cash flows from year 1 all the way to year 4. You notice that Project Canada has cash flows for every single one of the years, right? The initial investment of $15 million at year 0, in other words, today, $4 million in year 1, all the way to $7.15 million at year 4. However, if we take a look at Project Fiji, we notice that you see cash flows all the way to year 3. And then on year 4, well, we get a little problem. We have an X, okay? Now, X is interesting because X is what we're going to solve for. It's the missing cash flow, okay? And how do we go about solving for that missing cash flow? Well, we're not done just yet. There's still some more information that we want to jump through. Now, here they tell you, note that the two projects, all right, will intersect at a discount rate of 11.25%. And they're telling you that given the above information, what is the missing cash flow for the project, for Project Fiji at year 4? Now, this is important. A lot of students don't know what to do here. They're getting confused, but they gave you a really good piece of information. They told you, hey, the two projects are going to intersect at a discount rate of 11.25%. Especially the NPV of these two projects will intersect at a discount rate of 11.25%. The reason why this is awesome is because it's letting you know that at 11.25%, the net present value of Project A and the net present value of Project B will be equal to the same thing, okay? And why is that important to us? The reason why this is extremely important to us is because we understand, especially if we've seen my past videos on the crossover rate and ranges of NPVs for the internal rate of return chapter, like subtopic or subchapter, we understand that, well, the intersection of two NPVs, in other words, the crossover point or the crossover rate, well, essentially, that's the IRR of the incremental cash flows between Project B and Project A. In other words, it's the IRR of the difference between Project B and Project A for its entire lifetime. Now, I'm not going to run through it too much, but I'll give you a quick example on what this means. So if we go up a little bit, right here, I wrote a proof on what the incremental cash flow method is all about, which is the method that we're going to use here. But notice something, is that the intersection of two NPVs, the crossover point, in other words, it's the point at which the NPV of Project A is equal to the NPV of Project B, which is literally what I wrote right here. In other words, if the NPV of Project B is equal to the NPV of Project A, well, we could say that NPV of B minus NPV of A will give you 0. And this should ring a bell. You know, when we're talking about NPVs and we're talking about 0, this should ring like a really big bell, because the point at which the NPV is equal to 0, it yields a very interesting discount rate. It yields the most important discount rate out there. It yields the internal rate of return. The internal rate of return is the discount rate at which the NPV of a project, the NPV of a set of cash flows, will be equal to 0. And in this case, we're telling you the difference between two NPVs is equal to 0. In other words, we're telling you numbers equal to 0. So what is this telling us? This is telling us, assuming a case where, let's say we're dealing with perpetuities, that the payment, right, the payments of Project B, which are going to happen forever, over K, less the payments of Project A, are going to occur forever, over k is going to give you 0. So in other words, we could say that we're solving for one specific k, a specific k that's going to give us the difference between these two projects to be 0. And that point is the IRR. The IRR of the difference of these cash flows. The IRR of the difference of these cash flows under the incremental cash flow method is a crossover point. And we gave you that. We gave you the crossover point. The reason why that's awesome is because we could just reverse engineer our incremental cash flow method and use it to our advantage to solve for the missing cash flow. Okay. So if that doesn't make sense just now, don't you worry. It'll make sense because we're going to walk this step by step. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to zoom in. We're going to look at the difference between these two projects. Okay, so I'm going to add a little column in which we're going to look at the difference between project B and project A. Remember, this is us trying to follow the incremental cash flow method. So I guess we're just going to write a little note on the side here. Okay. I'm trying to make a little, there you go, the incremental cash flow method. So we can write that here as being the incremental CF. Okay. So what's awesome here is that we're just going to find a difference between every single one of these cash flows. Now, B minus A for year 0 is going to give you minus 0.25. B minus A for year 1 is going to give you 0.4. B minus A for year 2 will give you 0.7. B minus A for year 3 will give you 1. And then B minus A for year 4, well, hey. And I guess I'm sorry if it's not like totally aligned. That's on me there. But for the last year, year 4, we're going to have X minus 7.1. Right? And that's still okay with us because we understand that we're solving for X. Okay, that's what we're solving for. So with that information, it becomes really easy because we know that the difference between project B, the difference between N and project A, right? If we set that out, we'll get the crossover point. Okay, so check this out. We know that the NPV, sorry about that. We know that the NPV of B minus the NPV of A will give us 0. All right, in other words, we're telling you that. Put this here. I'm telling you that, okay, if we take minus 2.5, okay, and I guess that's not the same size. If we do this, plus 0.4 over essentially 1.1125, right, to the power of 1. And what I'm going to do, because I'm a lazy person, I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. Then copy this, paste it here. So we're going to do this a few times. This is here. Should be good. I'll take another one afterwards. Okay. So of course, I'm going to make a few adjustments. Here we're going to have 0.7. We're going to have the power of 2. Here we're going to have 1. It's going to be the power of 3. Here we're going to have x minus 7. Power of 4. And we know that if we add all these bad boys together, okay? If we add all these together, we're supposed to get a point that's going to be equal to 0, okay? Now there's a few, whoops, I'm so sorry about that. That's on me, my bad, that it kind of jumped over, but we have our information, it's back here. But the reason why this is awesome is because there's a few ways of going about this. On exam, what you could do is you could literally find the values for every single one of these one by one, and then just add them up together, right? And then you would essentially, I guess, well, we could actually make it more comprehensive than that. We could add all of this portion together. And then we're just going to solve for x, right? And we'll move it to the, to the left hand, to the right hand side, and blah, 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 blah. But another way for you to go about this is you could actually, so I guess I'll kind of highlight these two methods that you could use right here. So you could use two methods. You could use the sum method, so just adding them up together. Or you could use the CF plus NPV method. Okay. Both methods are totally fine. Alrighty, both methods, they work totally well. And this really depends on what works best for you. But both of them will give you the same answer. Okay. So what you could do if you want to use the CF plus NPV method is you could go ahead and actually plug in every single one of these cash flows into your CF function up until year 3, because that's going to give you the coefficient. I mean, just the value of all those cash flows, discounted. And then you'll just solve for the remaining piece. So you'll see what I mean in just a second. So you're going to press CF, you're going to do second clear work. And then for year 0, for CF0, you're going to put -25. You're going to enter that. For year 1, you're going to put 0.4, enter. CO2, you're going to put 0.7, you're going to enter. CO3, you're going to put 1, you're going to enter. Then you can go at NPV, sorry. You can go at NPV and you're going to place in the crossover rate, which is 11.25. Press enter. Then you're going to go to NPV and you're going to press compute. And that's going to give you an interesting value. That's going to give you a value of, I'll plug it in right underneath. It's going to give you minus 0.84859 plus, well, then that's like what the calculator is going to return. Then you're going to do that plus x minus 715 over 1.1125 power 4, and that has to be equal to 0. Then it becomes a game of just solving for x. So I'll help you out a little bit. I'll show you how I would go about it on an exam. So you can go ahead and bring this here because we don't have enough space. So then you would have x minus 7.15. You could simplify it further, 1.1125 to the power of 4. You're going to get 1.5317, 1.53. 1.5317, right? Because I'm just, putting in the exponent to make this easier for us. This is going to give us 0.84859. Then you could do x minus 7.5 times that amount. This is going to give us 1.29986, 1.29986, and then simply x will be equal to essentially 1.30 plus 7.15, so x will be equal to 8.45. And that's going to be your answer. It's literally as easy as that. I guess we'll make this a little bit bigger so I can actually highlight what I'm writing. X would be equal to 8.45, and that's going to be your missing cash flow. It's literally as simple as that. It's not complicated. You don't need to solve for an IRR. They're already giving you the IRR of the difference of those two cash flows. So it's literally as simple as that. But I understand how it can be seen as something difficult. But by essentially using your calculator to find the present value of all the different cash flows prior to year 4, that's one way to go about it. Or you could just do them one by one. So 0.4 divided by 1.1125 to the power of 1, blah, blah, blah. The same thing, whatever works best for you. And then you can see that, yes, the answer is 8.45. And if you want a proof, well, I'm not going to put it up, but I made the question, so I have the solutions on my left. And I used Excel to really find the best point. And yeah, the answer is 8.45. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this gave you some context on how to solve for the incremental cash flow method in order to seek the missing cash flow there. And yeah, listen, I don't know. I want to help out. And I hope this was able to help you out just a little bit, that you feel more empowered, that you feel more inspired, and that you see that it's really not that complicated. And what's dope with this is that you could really take a step back and just see what's up and see what didn't work, see what works, try it again and again. And on my website, you have this question in 1,000 different ways. And you could always get the step-by-step solutions just by looking it up. So that's awesome. And you have videos like these really just give you context and guidance for missing pieces. And what's dope is that you can go to other videos that are going to give you more context on missing pieces. So I hope this helps. And yeah, you're awesome. You know, there's no reason for you to be scared or afraid. If a fool like me could get through this, I'm sure you're going to be able to run through this. Okay. So yeah, hopefully I see you in another video. Hopefully this helped you out, and bye bye.